Elena was rushing to her waitressing job on a cold, rainy morning. Her old sneakers splashed through puddles as she dashed down the street, praying she wouldn't be late again. Just as she crossed the road, a sleek black car sped through a puddle right next to her, splashing dirty brown water all over her from head to toe. She froze in shock, dripping mud, as the car screeched to a halt a few meters away. Inside the car, billionaire Ethan Cruz sat casually behind the wheel, totally unconcerned. He glanced back through his mirror but couldn't see much through the rain. To him, it was just another unlucky pedestrian caught in the weather. Without a second thought, he drove off, leaving Elena standing there, humiliated, soaked, and fuming. She cursed under her breath, wiping her face, before storming off to work, already late and already in trouble. At the luxury Cruz mansion later that night, Ethan couldn't shake off the image of that mud-soaked girl. For some strange reason, her furious eyes haunted him. Meanwhile, Elena had sworn to herself that if she ever met that arrogant driver again, she would give him a piece of her mind. Little did she know fate had other plans. Elena reached her workplace, a small local restaurant, looking like a disaster. Her boss was furious, scolding her in front of customers. "You're always full of excuses, Elena," he barked. "One more mistake, and you're out." Embarrassed but helpless, Elena changed into spare clothes and pushed through her shift, her mind replaying the humiliation over and over again. Across town, Ethan attended a family dinner at his parents' mansion. His mother nagged him about settling down and finding a classy woman from their circle. Ethan rolled his eyes, uninterested in their plans for his life. His mind drifted back to the poor, muddy girl. There was something fiery about her he couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, Elena left work late, exhausted and still upset. As she walked home, she stared at the night sky, muttering, "I'll never forgive that reckless driver." She had no idea that their paths would cross again, sooner than she thought, and in the most unexpected way. The next morning, Elena was walking her usual route when a loud honk startled her. She jumped aside, only to realize it was the same sleek black car. It stopped right in front of her. The window rolled down, and to her surprise, a handsome man with piercing eyes leaned out. It was Ethan. "Hey, about yesterday," he began, but before he could finish, Elena exploded. "Oh, so you remember ruining my entire day?" she snapped. "What do you want now? To splash me again for fun?" Ethan was taken aback by her boldness. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. Instead of being offended, he found it amusing. "Relax, I was going to apologize," he said, holding back a grin. Elena scoffed. "Save your fake apology for someone who cares." She stormed off, leaving Ethan staring after her with an odd mixture of irritation and curiosity. Who was this girl, really? Ethan couldn't believe how the girl had dismissed him like he was some ordinary guy. It sparked a crazy idea in his head. What if he found out more about her? He sent his assistant to discreetly follow her. Later that day, he learned everything: her name, where she worked, and how she struggled to support her sick mother. Meanwhile, Elena told her best friend, Mia, about her encounter. "You told off a billionaire?" Mia gasped, wide-eyed. "That was Ethan Cruz. He owns half this city." Elena's jaw dropped. She had just insulted one of the most powerful men in town. Instead of being afraid, Elena laughed. Good. Maybe he'll think twice before splashing innocent people. But deep down, she wondered, why would a billionaire care enough to approach her twice? What exactly did he want? Ethan decided to take his game further. The next evening, he casually walked into Elena's restaurant, shocking everyone. Dressed simply in a hoodie and jeans, he looked nothing like the billionaire the media portrayed. Elena's eyes widened when she saw him sit in her section. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, narrowing her eyes. Ethan shrugged. "Eating. Or is that not allowed?" She clenched her fists, trying to stay professional. But when Ethan left her a $1,000 tip, she snapped. She marched to his table, slammed the money down, and said, "I'm not for sale." Ethan burst out laughing as he watched her stomp away. This girl was something else. For the first time in a long while, Ethan Cruz felt challenged, and he loved it. Days turned into weeks, but Ethan kept showing up at the restaurant, always sitting in Elena's section, always trying to spark a conversation. The staff whispered and giggled behind her back, convinced Elena had secretly caught the billionaire's attention. But Elena wasn't buying any of it. One night, after closing, Ethan waited for her outside. "Why are you following me around like some creepy stalker?" Elena confronted him. He smirked, leaning casually against his car. "Maybe I like watching you get all fired up." She glared at him. "Find a new hobby." But as much as she hated to admit it, a tiny part of her heart skipped whenever he appeared. She reminded herself that guys like Ethan didn't mix with girls like her. They lived in different worlds, worlds that should never collide. Meanwhile, Ethan's ex-girlfriend, Vanessa, had caught wind of his sudden interest in a nobody waitress. Furious and jealous, Vanessa vowed to destroy Elena's life before Ethan could get too close to her. She had connections, power, and the nastiest tricks up her sleeve. Back at the restaurant, Elena was shocked to find herself suddenly accused of theft. Her boss claimed that someone had reported her for stealing money from the cash register. It was a setup, and Elena knew exactly who was behind it. But she had no proof. Just as she was about to get fired, Ethan walked in, looking deadly serious. "If she's going down, I want to see the camera footage," he said coldly. The footage cleared Elena immediately. Her boss stammered apologies, while Ethan gave her a knowing look. "Not everyone hates you," he said softly. After the incident, Ethan offered Elena a ride home. She hesitated but finally agreed. The ride was awkwardly silent at first until he surprised her by asking about her dreams. No one had ever cared enough to ask her that. "I want to open my own small cafe someday," she admitted shyly. "A place where people like me can feel at home." Ethan listened intently. She wasn't like the gold diggers he was used to. She had real dreams. Real passion. As he dropped her off, he said something unexpected. "You're different, Elena. And I like that." Her heart skipped again, but she quickly masked it with sarcasm. "Good night, Mr. Splashy Billionaire." Ethan chuckled as she walked away, completely unaware that his feelings were already spiraling beyond his control. Vanessa wasn't done yet. She sent 2 thugs to scare Elena, warning her to stay away from Ethan. They cornered her in a dark alley, but just as things were about to get ugly, Ethan appeared out of nowhere, knocking one of the men down with a single punch. Terrified and furious, Elena confronted him later. "This is exactly why people like me shouldn't be anywhere near people like you," she cried. Ethan's expression softened. "Maybe that's exactly why I want you near me," he said, his voice low. The tension between them grew unbearable. Neither wanted to admit it, but their worlds were already tangled. And fate had no intention of letting them go their separate ways. Ethan decided to make a bold move. He offered Elena a job as his personal assistant. It pays triple what you make now, he added casually. Elena stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Working for you? After everything? She asked, half laughing, half panicking. Ethan shrugged. Think of it as payback for the mud incident. After a sleepless night of thinking, Elena shocked everyone, including herself, by accepting the job. Her first day was chaotic. Ethan's world was fast, demanding, and full of fake smiles. But what surprised her most was how lonely he looked when no one was watching. Behind all the wealth and power, Ethan Cruz was just lonely. Elena's new job wasn't easy. Ethan was demanding, sarcastic, and annoyingly charming. He teased her at every opportunity, calling her mud girl while she threw sassy comebacks right back at him. But beneath their banter, something deeper brewed. One afternoon, while organizing his files, Elena accidentally stumbled on a picture of a young Ethan with his late mother. There was sadness in his eyes she hadn't noticed before. She realized there was a side to Ethan no one else saw, the side he hid beneath arrogance. That night, while driving her home, Ethan casually asked, "Do you ever feel like people only see what they want to see about you?" Elena turned to him, surprised by the rawness in his voice. Maybe, just maybe, they weren't so different after all. Vanessa, still seething with jealousy, plotted her next move. This time, she approached Elena directly at a cafe. "Do you honestly think a man like Ethan would ever choose a girl like you?" she sneered. "You're just a game to him." Elena fought to keep her cool, but Vanessa's words hit a nerve. Was she right? Was she just entertainment for a bored billionaire? That night, Elena confronted Ethan about it. "Am I just a joke to you?" she asked. Ethan's jaw tightened. "If I thought you were a joke, I wouldn't have chased you this far," he replied seriously. For the first time, Elena saw the sincerity in his eyes, and it terrified her more than any of Vanessa's threats. The media soon caught wind of Ethan's mysterious new assistant. Paparazzi photos of them together went viral overnight. Headlines read, "Billionaire Ethan Cruz dating poor waitress?" The public went crazy with gossip. Elena was horrified. Her peaceful, private life was suddenly ripped apart. Reporters camped outside her home, shouting cruel questions. Her sick mother was stressed, and Elena felt helpless. Ethan, furious at the invasion of her privacy, took matters into his own hands. He personally drove to her neighborhood, glared at the paparazzi, and threatened them with legal action. That night, he sat beside Elena's mother, winning her over with genuine kindness. It was the first time Elena truly saw his heart. With time, Ethan's feelings for Elena grew undeniable. But he wasn't the only one falling deeper. Elena found herself smiling more, laughing more, especially around him. Still, she fought her feelings, scared of getting hurt. One evening, Ethan invited her to a charity gala, disguised as his assistant, of course. Elena, uncomfortable in designer clothes, stuck out like a sore thumb. Vanessa seized the chance to humiliate her, spilling wine accidentally all over her dress. Ethan, however, stunned everyone by taking off his own jacket and wrapping it around Elena protectively. He whispered in her ear, "You belong anywhere I am." That moment changed everything. Despite their growing closeness, problems kept piling up. Ethan's father disapproved of Elena entirely, calling her unsuitable and below their class. He threatened to cut Ethan off if he didn't end things with her. Elena overheard part of their argument and felt crushed. She didn't want to be the reason Ethan lost everything. She decided to resign from her job without telling him, leaving only a handwritten note behind, Thank you for everything. But it's time I went back to my world." When Ethan returned and found the note, his heart sank. For the first time, Ethan Cruz realized he wasn't just fond of Elena. He was completely, hopelessly in love. Ethan searched everywhere for Elena. Days turned into nights, and frustration built up. He went back to the small restaurant where she once worked, asked neighbors, even visited her mother's house, but Elena was gone, like a ghost. Meanwhile, Elena found a new job at a bakery far away from the city. She tried to rebuild her quiet life, convincing herself that forgetting Ethan was the best thing for both of them. But at night, memories of his smile haunted her dreams. Back in the city, Ethan wasn't giving up. He hired private investigators, scoured CCTV footage, and finally tracked her down to the small bakery. The moment he walked in, their eyes locked, and the emotions they both buried came rushing back like a storm. "What are you doing here, Ethan?" Elena whispered, heart pounding. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked right up to her and said, "I didn't come here to argue. I came here to take you home." Elena shook her head. "Your world is not my home, Ethan. We're too different." But Ethan wasn't backing down. "Different? Maybe. But I've never felt more alive than when I'm with you." His honesty broke through her walls. Realizing how far he'd come, from arrogant billionaire to a man willing to chase love barefoot if he had to, Elena's resolve began to crumble. Still, she wasn't ready to jump back into chaos. Ethan gave her space but promised one thing before leaving: "I'm not giving up on us." Days passed, and Ethan surprised Elena again, this time by humbling himself. He worked at the bakery alongside her, wearing an apron, serving customers, and even scrubbing floors. The sight of the billionaire flipping pancakes was pure comedy to Elena. But behind the laughter, Ethan's efforts touched her deeply. He was proving that love wasn't about wealth or class, it was about sacrifice. The townspeople adored him, completely unaware he was one of the country's richest men. One night, while they closed the shop together, Ethan softly said, "I never really felt like I belonged anywhere, until I met you." Elena's heart melted. Maybe, just maybe, they had a chance after all. Meanwhile, Vanessa wasn't done plotting. Enraged that Ethan had found Elena, she orchestrated a scandalous lie. Using edited pictures, she spread fake news online claiming Elena was pregnant for another man. The news spread like wildfire, reaching even the bakery. Customers whispered, some judged her, others pitied her. Elena was devastated, but Ethan stood by her side like a rock. "We know the truth," he told her firmly. But the final blow came when Ethan's father visited the bakery in person, publicly humiliating Elena and offering her money to leave Ethan forever. With tears in her eyes, Elena pushed the check back at him. "Tell your son I'm not for sale." Heartbroken yet proud, Ethan confronted his father. "You can take your wealth, your company, everything. But I'm not leaving Elena." His father, seeing his stubbornness, cut ties with Ethan completely. With nothing left to lose, Ethan asked Elena a simple but powerful question: "Will you trust me to build a life with you from scratch?" After everything they'd faced together, Elena knew her answer. "Yes," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. And just like that, two broken souls decided to write a new chapter, together, against all odds. With Ethan's decision to sever ties with his family, the road ahead seemed uncertain, but there was a fierce determination in his eyes. He no longer cared about the world that had once defined him, the one filled with luxury, power, and expectations. He chose to walk away from it all for the first time in his life, and the weight of that decision felt like a burden lifting off his shoulders. The paparazzi continued to hound them, and whispers followed them everywhere they went. But through it all, Elena stood by him, the woman who had taught him that the world was bigger than money. They found peace in the little things, late-night walks in the quiet parts of the city, dinners made together with ingredients they could afford, and simple laughter that no wealth could buy. As their bond deepened, so did the realization that love wasn't just about surviving the obstacles that came their way, it was about thriving despite them. Ethan's world may have crumbled, but it was rebuilding itself into something more meaningful. They began to make plans for the future, plans that didn't involve fortune or inheritance, but hard work and passion. Elena's dream of opening a cafe was taking shape, with Ethan standing beside her, willing to do whatever it took to make it a reality. There were times when they both doubted whether they could make it. How could two people from such different worlds ever find true happiness? But every day, with every step forward, they proved that their love wasn't just a fleeting moment. It was the kind of love that grew stronger with every challenge they faced. They didn't need the approval of the world or Ethan's wealthy family. They had each other, and that was more than enough. Yet, the shadows of Ethan's past weren't far behind. Vanessa, who had disappeared for a while, re-emerged with a vengeance. She knew exactly how to strike at the heart of Ethan's new life. She manipulated the media once again, painting a picture of Elena as nothing more than a gold digger out to trap Ethan for his money. Vanessa went as far as bribing certain influential figures to create more false stories that would destroy Elena's credibility. The attacks came from every direction: social media, news outlets, even people from Ethan's old world who turned their backs on him. Elena had grown stronger, but the weight of these new accusations was starting to break her spirit. As much as she wanted to ignore it, the constant public scrutiny was overwhelming. She couldn't help but wonder if their love was truly worth all this pain. But Ethan wasn't about to let her go down without a fight. He confronted the media head-on, something he hadn't done before. Instead of hiding from the cameras, he walked straight into a press conference with Elena by his side. "There are lies being spread about my relationship with Elena, and I'm here to set the record straight," he began, his voice calm but firm. "I am not some rich playboy, and Elena is not a gold digger. She's the woman I love, and I don't care what anyone else thinks about that." The reporters were caught off guard, and the room fell silent. For the first time in a long time, Ethan's words weren't about business or wealth, they were about something real. His love for Elena was raw, unfiltered, and unapologetic. As Ethan continued to speak, Elena could feel her heart racing. The world seemed to stop as the man she loved stood in front of thousands, declaring their love for her without shame or hesitation. It wasn't the kind of love that sought validation, it was the kind that knew no boundaries. It was their love, and nothing else mattered. After the press conference, the media storm didn't stop, but something shifted. People began to question the motives of those who tried to tear them apart. Vanessa's lies began to unravel as more people spoke out in defense of Elena. The public began to realize the truth, that love wasn't something that could be bought or manipulated. It was something that had to be earned, and Ethan had earned it with every sacrifice he had made for Elena. But even with the tides turning in their favor, Elena still couldn't shake the feeling of insecurity. She felt like the world was watching, waiting for them to fail. It wasn't just the media, it was her own fear of never being good enough for someone like Ethan. They had come so far, but she still wondered if she deserved this happiness. One evening, as they sat together, Elena confessed her fears to Ethan. "I'm scared that one day, everything we've built will come crashing down. I'm just a girl from the wrong side of town. What if this is all just a dream?" Ethan held her close, brushing her hair back gently. "Elena, I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be real. You're more than enough for me." You always have been. The tension in the media gradually began to die down, but new challenges emerged. The cafe that Elena had always dreamed of finally opened, but it was met with unexpected difficulties. Despite their best efforts, the initial success didn't come as easily as they had hoped. There were constant setbacks, unreliable suppliers, financial struggles, and a demanding workload. Elena felt the pressure mounting, and she wasn't sure how much longer they could keep going. The stress took its toll on both of them. They argued more frequently, small misunderstandings snowballing into bigger fights. They were still deeply in love, but the weight of reality was beginning to strain their relationship. Ethan, who had grown used to solving problems with money and influence, found himself helpless in the face of real-world issues that couldn't be fixed with a checkbook. But instead of retreating into his old ways, he dug deep and started learning what it really meant to work alongside Elena. He spent hours in the kitchen with her, experimenting with recipes, getting his hands dirty in ways he never thought he would. He became involved in every aspect of the business, from hiring staff to setting up inventory. Slowly but surely, their hard work started paying off. The cafe became a place where people gathered, not just for the food, but for the warmth and love that radiated from it. Elena and Ethan's bond strengthened through the struggle, each day proving that they were capable of overcoming anything as long as they had each other. The cafe's success wasn't instant, but it was steady. They had created something beautiful together, something that felt more meaningful than anything Ethan had ever experienced in his old life. But despite their growing success, there was still a shadow hanging over them. Vanessa had not given up. She continued to plot against them, finding new ways to tear their happiness apart. This time, however, Ethan and Elena were ready. They had each other, and that was all they needed. Vanessa's latest attack came from an unexpected source, a fake business deal. She had planted rumors that Elena and Ethan were in financial trouble, spreading lies about unpaid loans and hidden debts. At first, it seemed like another attack that would pass, but soon, the rumors snowballed. One of Ethan's old business associates, seeing an opportunity, began buying up shares in their cafe without their knowledge. This underhanded move put their livelihood at risk, and the once solid ground they stood on started to feel shaky. Elena was furious. "Why can't she just leave us alone?" she fumed, pacing back and forth in their small apartment. Ethan, who had always been a master at fixing problems, felt powerless for the first time in his life. His mind raced, trying to think of a solution. But despite the pressure mounting around them, they refused to back down. With the cafe at risk, they had no choice but to confront the situation head-on. Together, they visited the investors who had been taking advantage of their business. The meeting was tense, but Ethan didn't come empty-handed. He had a plan, and it was time to play the game in a way that only he knew how. "I don't care about wealth or prestige," Ethan told the investors calmly. "But I'll fight for the woman I love and the business we've built." With that declaration, the deal fell apart and their cafe remained in their hands. But the victory didn't come without sacrifice. Ethan knew that their troubles weren't over. Vanessa, like a venomous snake, would strike again. But this time, Elena and Ethan were ready for whatever she threw their way. They were stronger together than they had ever been apart. Despite the drama in the business world, life at the cafe started to settle into a rhythm. It became a sanctuary, a place of peace in the chaos of their lives. The staff became a second family, supporting them through the ups and downs. Elena, who had once been uncertain of her own worth, found herself thriving in the work she had always dreamed of doing. Ethan, who had left behind the world of luxury, found pride in creating something with his own hands. However, even in their newfound happiness, doubts continued to linger. Ethan struggled with guilt over his past, constantly wondering if he could truly leave behind the world of wealth that he had once known. Elena, too, wrestled with insecurity, still unsure if she was truly deserving of a man like Ethan. But one night, as they closed the cafe together, the conversation shifted. Elena took a deep breath and said, "I've been thinking a lot about us, about what we've built. And I realized something. I don't need your wealth, Ethan. I never did. What we have is enough." Ethan smiled, his eyes filled with admiration. "I feel the same way. We've created a life that's ours, not anyone else's." He reached out to take her hand. "And I wouldn't trade it for anything." The peace they had found in their work and love was soon shattered when Vanessa made her final move. Determined to ruin their lives once and for all, she spread a devastating lie, this time claiming that Elena had been involved in an affair with one of their regular customers. The scandal exploded in the media, and even the cafe's loyal patrons began to question Elena's integrity. Ethan, though furious, refused to let the lies win. He knew that no matter how much they fought, the media would spin the story in whatever direction it pleased. But he also knew one thing for sure: he wouldn't let Vanessa's schemes tear apart what he had with Elena. The couple withdrew from the public eye, retreating into their private lives while they fought to clear Elena's name. They gathered evidence to prove the accusations were false, and with Ethan's connections, they confronted the media outlets that had spread the lies. Vanessa, who had grown more desperate by the day, was exposed for the manipulative and vengeful person she truly was. The truth came to light, and the public backlash against Vanessa was swift. But as Elena stood beside Ethan through the storm, something shifted in their relationship. No longer was there doubt in their hearts. They knew they had survived together, and nothing would ever break them apart again. As the drama with Vanessa subsided, Elena and Ethan found themselves at a crossroads. The cafe was thriving, and their personal lives had finally settled into a sense of normalcy. But Ethan's world still loomed in the background: his estranged family, the legacy he had left behind, and the question of whether he could ever truly escape it. One evening, after a long day at the cafe, they sat together on the balcony, watching the sunset. Ethan turned to Elena with a serious expression. "I've been thinking," he said quietly, "about everything we've been through. About what I left behind. I want to make things right, not for me, but for us. I want us to have everything we've dreamed of, but I also need to face my past." Elena nodded, understanding his need for closure. "We'll do it together, Ethan. Whatever comes next, we'll face it side by side." And so, Ethan made the decision to return to his family, not to beg for their approval, but to face them as the man he had become. The man who didn't need their wealth or influence to define him. He was ready to rebuild the broken relationships of his past, not because he owed them anything, but because he owed it to himself and Elena to finally find peace. Ethan's visit to his family was tense, but it was also long overdue. He met with his father first, the man who had disowned him. Ethan walked into the grand mansion, a stark reminder of everything he had left behind. His father, cold and aloof, barely acknowledged his presence. But Ethan was determined to stand his ground. "I'm not here to beg for your approval," he said firmly. "I'm here because I want you to see who I've become. I'm happy, and that's something you never gave me." His father didn't speak for a long time, but finally, his hardened expression softened. "I've never understood you, Ethan," he admitted quietly. "But I see now that you've found something I never gave you: love. True love." It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, but it was a step forward. Ethan left the meeting feeling a weight lifted off his shoulders. He had confronted his past, and for the first time in his life, he was truly free. Elena and Ethan's bond continued to grow stronger with each passing day. They had faced so many obstacles, from media scandals to family betrayals, but they had come out on the other side, unbroken and more in love than ever. The cafe flourished, becoming a staple in their community, and they were finally living the life they had dreamed of. But as their success grew, so did the temptation to return to the comforts of their old lives. Ethan was offered lucrative business deals, and Elena's reputation as a savvy entrepreneur grew. They had to decide what success meant to them. Was it wealth, power, or something more? One quiet evening, as they sat in their cafe, watching the sunset behind the city skyline, Elena looked at Ethan. "We've come so far, haven't we?" she said softly. "But what do we really want from here on out?" Ethan smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "What I want is simple," he replied. "I want us, just us, to keep building, to keep loving, and to keep living our truth. That's the only success that matters." With the trials behind them and the future ahead, Ethan and Elena embraced the life they had created together. They had faced every challenge life had thrown at them, and through it all, their love had only grown stronger. The cafe continued to thrive, a symbol of their dedication, hard work, and love for each other. And as they looked toward the future, they knew that whatever came next, they would face it as a team. Together, they had built more than just a business. They had built a life full of love, hope, and the kind of happiness that couldn't be bought. It was a life they had earned, step by step, side by side. And they were ready to embrace it, knowing that the best was yet to come.
That's the end of the story. What did you learn about the story? Please leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.